Before we begin, thank you very much to Catherine T for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you for the contribution. Means the world to me. I know I've literally said probably like 1,000 of these thank yous over the years. None of them mean anything less. Like, genuinely, I'm amazed anyone wants to support what I am doing here. But it's what keeps the daily content coming. It's what keeps the channel free and as ad free as I can afford to do. It's what helps me get through all this. So thank you very, very much for helping me out. Now, let us move on to the topic of the day. I talked about Transmetals once upon a time and just Hasbro's lack of support for them. However, since then, they've kind of written themselves into a corner over the whole thing. Quick Strike released in January, and this marks the end of the Beast Wars characters they can get away with new toys of without resorting to the Transmetal designs. So, yeah, we got the entirety of the Season 1 cast, the 2 Fusors, and now everything else will require shiny metallic finishes. So, now the debate comes, where are they? Considering it's literally the only thing in Beast Wars left, there's nothing on the slate for 2026 that we've seen through any of the computer leaks of any kind of Beast Wars support on the way. Meaning this is going to remain this big vacant gap in the modern Beast Wars selection for at least the foreseeable future. It is kind of the drawback of the nature of Beast Wars itself. Yes, they've got a ton of characters they could be doing from across the toy lines, but only so many in the show. The double-edged sword of the show is, yes, it tells a fantastic story with very well written and even deep characters. However, because of its small cast nature, you have a very limited run of characters you can actually do for a toy line. And as we've seen with Beast Wars characters ending up on the clearance aisle or in like clearance stores like Ross, there's only so much nostalgia to tap. So going into the non-show characters like your Polar Claws, for instance, those are going to be a bit more of a risk. So they only have one place to go, and the question is why? So I always assumed it was the Chrome. However, we've gotten Transmetal 2 figures where Hasbro's been completely fine with having no Chrome on the toys whatsoever. When Transmetal 2 Megatron came out, I think the biggest concern we had was how weirdly they molded the teeth. From what we're aware of, that was not the plan. That was an adjustment made at the factory level, and it makes that Megatron look so odd. It's such a weird adjustment and change to make. But the point is, there's no Chrome, and I heard nary a complaint about that. I don't think anyone genuinely cared. I will say the exact same thing of the Tigerhawk. I don't remember hearing anyone upset that the Chrome was removed from that design. We could even go, and really, we could go further into that. Prior to even Kingdom being a thing, we got a new Optimal Optimus toy during Power of the Primes. No Chrome whatsoever on the piece. Not a single complaint was had. Now, granted, that toy is really stupid. That toy is really, really stupid. But it is obviously is a very Chrome character in the original release that is now completely sans Chrome, and everyone was okay with it. So you see, this is me basically making my one-man pitch. I will single-handedly convince Hasbro that it's okay to do Transmetals. I will see, and we already go through this Chrome argument, get that out of the way, just so we can get to the real stuff and the nitty gritty, and just give you the reasons this could still work. So, I know here, since I'm pitching directly to Hasbro here, I know we've not seen eye to eye in the past. Okay, I know that I'm probably not on your best books because I am critical of the company sometimes. I made a name for myself making fun of the bad toys. I have criticized everything from your marketing campaigns to your packaging designs. And yes, I feel right now you and Epic Games are having a race to determine who can have the worst CEO. That's all said, however, I am genuinely your ally. I love this franchise. I want to see it continue. I want to see it be better. That's why I criticize. But in the case of this argument, I'm really just trying to make this case to show you that, yes, we can have these toys, and there are very good reasons for you to invest in them. Now, when it comes to the chrome, the flashiness, and all this, we've come a long way in metallic plastic. I just picked up some of the armor swords that are the new Power Ranger equivalent that are on shelves now. And I've actually been really impressed by the metallic treatment they have to their plastic. Yes, it's metallic flake, but you don't see swirls in it. It looks very vibrant. It really does feel like this could pass for, a replacement for Transmetal Chrome. And if this was done as, just a normal style to a Transformer toy, I think it worked completely fine. Especially as just like little insert things that weren't really like heavy on the engineering. So this has no excuse anymore. Like, I can understand the metallic paint not being a thing because that much paint is going to be expensive too. But when you can just mold the parts like this, that gets considerably cheaper. This is viable. This is entirely viable. Unless you're Cheetor, which in case do not mold that stuff in gold. Paint it. Please paint the Cheetor, but you can mold everybody else. Everyone else can have this. Let's talk about necessity. Is it necessary to update the Transmetals? Because they were much closer in accuracy to the animation models, thanks to the animators focusing more on, adapting the model rather than coming up with something on their own. And they still do look very, very good. But they are, by modern standards, primitive figures, Tarantulas here does do a decent job with his ball joint engineering. He does have quite a bit going on, but really, you can't convey the character. If we take a look at the third-party approach, when you can have just that proper articulation level on top of that design, you can convey the character so much better. The creepiness and the insanity that is Tarantulas can't really be captured with 8 ball joints in the limbs, you need more nuance, you need more subtlety. And yeah, he's not the only one that suffers that issue. All the Transmetals pretty much need an upgrade in the articulation department. We can kind of acknowledge that. The main offender to that is Cheetor. Oh my god. Cheetor's entire thing is putting his cheetah head hands together and firing off Street Fighter Hadoukens as his main weapon. Well, the original toy can do that, but you have to break his shoulders in order to do it. Not literally, just figuratively. I'd love to have a modern Cheetor with butterfly joints. I don't see why that couldn't be a thing. Give me something to make him actually pose the way he does in the show, Also, Transmetals had this going on. A lot of the Transmetal head sculpts were very angry, grimacing, growly, they don't look pleasant. I would say I want an upgrade for Transmetals solely so the head designs can be closer to how they looked on the cartoon. Rather than, Cheetor here, who's... I don't know what he's doing. He looks like he's possessed by a ghost. I need some better faces on these toys, please. Or at least more screen accurate, and at the very least. So, and then there's obvious updates, Rat Trap, for instance, has always had really bad issues with accuracy, since the show designers did muck with the design quite a bit. To this day, we're just kind of wondering why those wheels did not rotate all the way around to the back of his shoulders the way they do in the cartoon. that does seem like something that you could have done with just like a swivel joint back in the day. But we do know that also comes down to the animators screwing with the designs, not a fault of the toy. But it would be nice to actually have a screen accurate Rat Trap that didn't have that issue, you know, just as a treat for us. And Rat Trap is actually a great example of the other reason why Transmetals could work, and that is viability. See, for Transformers today, you gotta have some repaints and remolds in mind before you even put sculpt to clay, because they want to get as many uses out of every mold as they possibly can. That's a cost and production thing, and that's completely justified. That's absolutely justifiable. However, the Transmetals at first seem like they don't have a whole lot of options, but genuinely they do. You know, the Tarantulas we just saw has an incredibly cool looking white repaint they could do anytime they want. Rat Trap has like 4 different repaints. There is, what, the Walmart one, there's the Fox Kids one, there's another one I'm losing track of. Okay, point is, like, there's a lot. And here's another one where you can get your Rat Trap in bright white and orange. This was sold with a puzzle in Japan. Weird releases, but it does mean 4 uses of this mold, and that does mean a lot. Granted, some are obscure, but then again, you do Diaclone repaints, Hasbro, so let's not talk about obscurity at this point. In Gen Selects, this would sell. As a weird multi-pack, this would sell. The blue Rat Trap, I know people do have some nostalgia for. That would sell. Especially if you market it as a pack rat and throw in a fractal while you're at it. That said, I mean, not the only one. We could do the same excuse for Cheetor. I mean, we have a few repaints of him already as well. There's also a Fox Kids of him. You could technically do Ravage, because we all know that, like, that design, the one that you released is cool, but it ain't the X9 Ravage. You know, there is a legacy and legend to X9 Ravage from the old school fans who were looking at that and going like, wow, they got the coolest toy that never came out over here. And then get everyone pay exorbitant prices to get it in hand, get it and go, oh, so this is basically just Cheetor. Point being, you've got reuses, and those reuses include this Armada Cheetor. Now, here's the important thing. We have such a rush to get in, like, this push to get Armada toys out there, right? So, like, everyone's kind of, like, begging you for more Armada toys. Well, these are official Armada toys, you know, and, like, those deluxe Transmetals did show up in the comic books as Unicron's heralds. So it is possible. There is, like, actual fiction backing them up. Or you just have weird ones like Predacon here. But hey, at the very least, it gives you things to do. There are options for repaints. I mean, look, you just did a whole movie that brought up Ape Link's stock enormously higher than it was before. People actually know who Ape Link is now. It's an alternate version, but hey, it's an awareness thing. You know, we are more aware of Ape Link than we were previously. And I know you love, lately you have loved tapping into BotCon and OTFCC stuff in order to get repaints. Well, here's a perfect one, just set up, ready to go. And then we talk other things that you can only give us if you're willing to do Transmetals. And things like depth charge. That's the entire section. That's my entire reasoning, is depth charge. So depth charge needs to exist. Depth charge is a super cool character. Like, you need your depth charge toy. I would love to see a depth charge that is, like, not only modern articulation and proportion, but not hindered by how many gimmicks they crammed into him. I would love a depth charge that I could stick on a shelf and not have this massive manta ray tail handle sticking out the back of him just so he could be the disc launcher guy. I kind of just want him to just be a solid figure instead. You know, crazy thought, right? Crazy thought that I just want him to be, you know, a cool toy. But yeah, he's a cool character. Rampage too. We need, both of them are very, very missed at this point. Transmetal 2 Dinobot. Oh my god, what a cool design on such an unfortunate toy. This is like your earliest fossilizer. This is like, it's a cyborg zombie raptor. Come on. That sounds like the coolest thing a 10-year-old would come up with. It's like, it's up there with Axe Cop riding his dinosaur. Like, it's that level of just like crazy cool. And the toy that came out is, again, just disappointing because it's ball joint construction on plastic that doesn't handle ball joints well, but like it got floppy very, very quickly. A modern one with universal joints that would actually be able to hold up over time would go so hard. And again, yeah, weird repaints you could do. Do what you guys like to do. Do the toy accurate one first and then do the cartoon accurate one second. You guys love doing that. You love doing that. Oh, and I'm just saying the Ravage would have a repaint too. Just come on, please. Anything. I mean, and as long as we're just talking like cool designs that need to exist, like, God. The fact that we don't have anything for Transmetal 1 Megatron is kind of a sin. We have normal and Transmetal 2. We have no Transmetal 1 in between. Hasbro, you say you like to complete sets. There is a missing gap in that set. And I would actually argue that Transmetal Megatron is the most memorable of the three. Because during Season 1, yeah, he's in the purple body a lot longer, but it's a much more episodic series in Season 1. You can cut out 10-odd episodes and not really miss anything in the overall story of the series. So, even though you get more exposure to the original purple Megatron there, it's the Season 2 Megatron where his most famous bits are. It's where his character is much more firmly written, the charisma is there, the grand scheming and planning is there, all the drama over the golden discs with Dinobot, like, this is it, and then everything that was attempting to take over the Ark and kill Prime. His best moments came in this body. And of course, the original toy self-destructs. So we absolutely need a replacement. We absolutely need this design to be done again. And by the way, yeah, I know Predacon is a pretty thin repaint option, but let's be honest here. We've been proven that it can work in other color schemes. Weirdly enough, I don't think this works the other way. I've never seen a Grimlock toy that you could turn into a Beast Wars Megatron in a satisfying way. They thought about doing it for the Fall Cybertron toy and it looked terrible, so it never came out. However, I think this is sick looking as Dinobot, or as Grimlock in the Dinobot colors. Like, I think that looks really, really cool. You could get away with weird homage repaints like that. Like, Cheetor's head is kind of designed to be Prowl because originally he was Prowl. Lean into it. Give me what Prowl would look like as a Transmetal. Just have fun. Do goofy stuff. Play. However, these days, I'm far more cognizant of the fact that there is another reason why Transmetals, and specifically Transmetal 1s, are not being done at retail right now, even though normal Beast Wars and Transmetal 2s have been done. And it's that third mode. And it's not even the engineering of it. I'm sure they could figure out articulation and still get those in. We've seen it happen with third parties. I think it's because part count, assembly. In order to actually put those in, you're going to increase the expenses of the toy pretty high. So now you're getting into things like Brawl here, who is by all practices a deluxe, but because he needs to have extra sturdy engineering to be an ankle tilt for Bruticus, they sell him as a Voyager, and they throw in some extra guns in order to bulk him up. They're doing the same thing with the Swindle that's on the way. So you have this unfortunate means of like, well, if we're doing Transmetals with the third mode, we're going to have to upcharge them. You're going to have to pay, you're not going to pay, your $28 deluxe price point for a rat trap. You're going to pay $43 for that rat trap, who is very clearly a small deluxe. But in order to put in that extra engineering for the Roadster mode, they need the budget. Rat Trap's probably an extreme example. He'd probably still be a deluxe because of his smaller size. And Cheetor probably would be a deluxe as well because he just has little wings folding out. But what do you do with like Rampage, who has a legitimate third mode? What do you do with Tarantulas, who has dedicated engineering to getting into that motorcycle mode? That's where you start getting into like, well, these might have to be sold at a higher price point just for the part count. And to that I say, do what you did in Beast Wars 10th. I think if you have to upsize or upsell the Beast Wars toys into higher price points, do a Build-A-Figure. That's how you bulk it out. Not only incentivizing buying the entire set, just like the Beast Wars 10th line was, but also that Transmutate from that series is crazy expensive right now. And not to mention, it's a pretty fragile thing, like there's parts on this toy that are very breakable fragile, and other parts like the legs, which are soft plastic fragile. It's a toy that definitely deserves another go, just to potentially give it more function than it originally had, to fit into the line a little bit better. And yeah, just to kind of take advantage of the collector market who's still after one. See, I think that's your solution. If it's a cost thing and we have to upsell them to higher price points, Transmutate. I think Transmutate fixes this entire scenario. But that's just me. So that is everything. That is me desperately trying to convince Hasbro, hey, Transmetals can work. They are absolutely viable. And yeah, they represent a really good time during the Beast Wars, with season 1 being episodic and season 3 being more about Megatron building like contraptions to get into the Maximal base. His grand scheming, the best arc of Beast Wars is in that season 2 realm, and that's where Transmetals live. So we need it, and it needs to happen, and I kind of getting scared. So this is just me just like pitching why this is actually viable, why this could work, and talking to someone at Hasbro who is clearly not going to exist because Hasbro doesn't pay attention to me. So, we're going to leave it at that for the day. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you be buying Transmetals if they don't? Like, obviously a lot of you would, but is there a reason you wouldn't? Like, if they had to do some things, would the Chrome be a breaking point for you? Give me things like that. But just let me know in the comments section below what you think. And as usual, I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.